They were twin sisters who married twin brothers. A love story written in perfect symmetry. Everyone said it was beautiful, until the doctors called it dangerous. They were told not to have children, but what happened next defied science, shattered expectations, and changed the very meaning of family. Stay with us, because this is a story you won't forget. And tell us in the comments where you're watching from. Selena and Alina Bennett had always lived life in rhythm. Two identical twins sharing everything from birthdays to broken bones. Growing up in Asheville, North Carolina, they were inseparable, yet distinct. Selena was cautious, organized, and a quiet thinker. Alina was bold, impulsive, and craved adventure. What they did share was a bond forged not just in biology, but in trusts. And after watching their parents' marriage unravel, they made a pact: never let love blindside them, never settle until it felt undeniably right. That vow was tested in the summer of 2022, when the sisters attended the Mirror Souls Festival in Sedona, Arizona. It was a national celebration of twins, filled with games, speeches, and the kind of whimsical chaos only 1,000 sets of twins could create. Alina had dragged Selena along, promising laughs and maybe a little romance. What they found instead was fate. Selena met Daniel Reyes at a booth showcasing mirrored artwork. He was soft-spoken, steady, and thoughtful. An Atlanta-based software architect who made her laugh with dry wit and surprised her with quiet confidence. Alina, meanwhile, got caught in a water balloon fight led by Daniel's twin brother Darius. He was everything she wasn't afraid of anymore. Fearless, loud, and living like the ground might vanish tomorrow. By the end of that first evening, both sisters found themselves unable to stop smiling. For weeks, the romances grew in secret. Selena and Daniel traded late-night video calls. Alina and Darius sent ridiculous selfies from every new city he flew into. Then, one evening back in North Carolina, the truth slipped out. Alina admitted she was seeing someone she met in Sedona. So did Selena. When they finally revealed the names, Daniel and Darius, the room fell into stunned silence, then erupted with laughter. Not only had they fallen in love, they had fallen in love with identical twins. Their family called it a cosmic prank. But to the sisters, it felt destined. Within months, the two couples were inseparable. Weekends blurred into shared dinners, movie nights, and spontaneous road trips. Daniel grounded Selena, drawing her out of her shell. Darius matched Alina's energy beat for beat. The four of them fell into a rhythm, effortless, familiar, and full of joy. Living just minutes apart in Durham, the sisters began to imagine something they never thought possible, building lives not just next to each other, but with each other. That dream turned real at a lakeside family cookout, where Daniel and Darius pulled off a perfectly timed dual proposal. As the sun dipped low, they each knelt with identical rings hidden in mason jars, asking the Bennett sisters to spend forever with them. Cheers erupted. Their mother cried. Even their skeptical cousin, who once joked they'd never settle down, was speechless. The story caught fire online. Photos of the proposals went viral, and within days, a documentary film crew reached out with a proposal of their own. A documentary chronicling their wedding and journey as mirror couples. It felt surreal, magical, and a little overwhelming. But beneath the excitement, a quiet concern lingered in Selena's mind. At their mother's urging, the sisters scheduled a consultation with a fertility specialist. They wanted answers, just to be safe. The appointment was routine at first. Dr. Haley Monroe, a seasoned geneticist with a calm demeanor, reviewed their histories and smiled politely, until she heard the details of their partners. "You're both marrying identical twins?" she repeated slowly. Her smile faded as she turned toward her computer. Within minutes, she was flipping through textbooks, scanning gene charts, recalculating probabilities. The room fell silent. Then, softly, she spoke. "What you're describing, two sets of identical twins having children with each other, is extremely rare, and it presents something biologically unique." Selena and Alina leaned in, unsure of what they were hearing. Dr. Monroe explained that because Daniel and Darius were monozygotic twins, their DNA was essentially identical. So, any children born from these couples, though legally cousins, could be biologically considered siblings. Not just similar, genetically equivalent. And with that came risks. If there were any recessive genes, undetected disorders, or vulnerabilities, they could appear in both children. The doctor urged caution, not fear. "This doesn't mean you shouldn't move forward," she said gently, "but you should understand what you're walking in." Selena felt her stomach twist. Alina gripped her hand. Neither had expected science to complicate something so beautiful. But they walked out of that office more committed than ever, not just to love, but to knowledge, to vigilance, and to each other. The wedding was everything they had dreamed of, equal parts fairy tale and family reunion. Under a canopy of magnolia trees strung with warm lights, Selena and Alina walked down the aisle together. The venue overlooked the Blue Ridge Mountains, where soft winds carried the scent of white roses. The guests sat in mirrored rows, each side a reflection of the other. Daniel and Darius stood waiting at the altar, both wearing matching smiles and navy suits. They exchanged vows in perfect symmetry, sisters to brothers, promises echoed in tandem. Cameras rolled, drones hummed overhead. The documentary film crew whispered directions, but even they fell quiet during the final blessing. The officiant smiled and said, "I now pronounce you mirror couples." The crowd erupted. Back in Durham, the couples moved into a shared duplex. Side A for Selena and Daniel, side B for Alina and Darius. It was chaotic, joyful, and wonderfully strange. Even grocery shopping became a shared event. And soon, a new chapter began. Selena and Alina, both pregnant, just weeks apart. The joy in the house was electric. Baby books filled the kitchen table. The basement became a nursery building war zone. Darius painted walls without taping the edges. Daniel made spreadsheets for diaper inventory. It was messy, hilarious, and full of hope. But at 12 weeks, everything changed. Alina felt it first, sharp, silent pain. The scan confirmed it. No heartbeat. She miscarried that night in a rush of tears and trembling silence. Darius held her. Selena stayed by her side. No one spoke much. The house fell into stillness. 4 weeks later, Selena, now visibly pregnant, went in for her routine checkup. The technician's face changed. She didn't have to say a word. Selena already knew. Another heartbeat. Gone. In a single month, their dreams collapsed. They had been planning baby showers. Now they were burying them in their hearts. But grief didn't separate them. It carved a deeper bond. Together, they planted 2 cherry blossom trees in the backyard, one for each child. Beneath them, they buried handwritten letters. No names, just love. They called the trees Hope and Faith. The documentary film crew asked if they wanted to pause the documentary. Selena said no. "Loss is part of our story too," she said, "and it deserves to be seen." 6 months passed. The trees in the backyard bloomed in silence, pale pink petals falling like soft prayers. Selena and Alina spent long mornings under their branches, reading, crying, sometimes just sitting in silence. Healing came slowly, but it came. Then, quietly, cautiously, they tried again. This time, they did everything differently. Weekly appointments, genetic counseling, nutritional guidance, emotional therapy. The production crew returned with their cameras, but only when invited. The tone had shifted. This wasn't a fairy tale anymore. It was real life, gritty, beautiful, and unpredictable. At 18 weeks, Dr. Haley Monroe called them in for a joint appointment. She looked calm, but Selena could tell something was on her mind. The doctor pulled up both ultrasound scans and pointed to a pattern in the fetal development markers. Then she brought out their genetic charts. "You're not going to believe this," she said, "but I've double and triple checked. The babies growing inside Selena and Alina, conceived separately by different men, were genetically full siblings, not just cousins, not just similar siblings." She explained how, due to the identical DNA of Daniel and Darius, the children inherited nearly the same genetic code. From a biological standpoint, it was as if the same 2 parents had created them. 2 wombs, 1 shared code. The room went silent. Selena stared at the screen, her hand on her belly. Alina blinked twice, then laughed through her shock. "We were always going to raise them like siblings anyway," she whispered. "Now science agrees." Dr. Monroe warned that while it was a statistical miracle, it still came with medical responsibility. The production crew, filming from behind glass, was stunned. Later that night, the footage would capture the moment both sisters sat under the cherry blossoms, this time with soft smiles instead of sorrow. They didn't need a perfect story. They just needed each other. The weeks that followed blurred into soft routines. Selena and Alina, now in their 3rd trimester, were rarely seen apart. They shared meals, shared sonograms, and even shared sleepless nights when the babies kicked in perfect rhythm. Their husbands took turns grocery shopping and cooking. Baby books, medical notes, and paint samples cluttered the kitchen counter. Beneath the surface, however, an undercurrent of fear still lingered, quiet but heavy. Both pregnancies had progressed further than before, but neither sister allowed herself to exhale fully. One night, with the wind tapping at the windows and the blossoms outside just beginning to fade, Selena woke up clutching her side. "It's time," she whispered to Daniel. The hospital was ready. Doctors had been briefed. Monitors beeped steadily as she was wheeled into delivery. Just 4 hours later, almost to the minute, Alina's water broke. In separate rooms, the twins braced for what they hoped would be their first full living chapter as mothers. Selena's labor was long and slow. She cried into Daniel's shoulder, not from pain but from memory. Every contraction pulled her closer to the moment she had once feared might never come. Finally, after hours of pushing, a cry split. A daughter. Healthy, whole, wide-eyed and squinting like she already knew the world. Moments later, in the room across the hall, Alina was gripping Darius's hand, sweat on her brow, whispering prayers between deep breaths. When her son arrived, the nurse laughed. "You timed it like a relay race." And just like that, another cry rang out. Strong, defiant, alive. 2 babies, born hours apart, connected by blood, wombs, and fate. When the sisters were wheeled into recovery, they looked at each other and smiled the kind of smile that only grief and gratitude could shape. They placed their newborns side by side, and for the first time saw what the doctor had told them months ago. Genetically, these weren't cousins. These were siblings, created by parallel love stories, raised under one roof, destined to grow together. Outside, the media buzzed again. The story had leaked through the documentary crew's teaser trailer. Headlines called it a genetic miracle and the Quad family who broke science. Critics debated ethics and boundaries. Supporters celebrated love beyond convention. But inside that hospital room, none of that mattered. Selena held her daughter. Alina held her son. And under the soft hum of fluorescent lights, they leaned their heads together and whispered in unison. "We did it. They're here, and they're ours." Back home, the house felt different. Not just louder, not just fuller, deeper. Every cry echoed with meaning. Every diaper change, every sleepless night, carried the weight of a journey that nearly didn't happen. Selena and Alina turned their living room into a rotating nursery, swapping bassinets during feedings, finishing each other's lullabies while their husbands folded laundry one-handed. They were raising their children not as cousins, but as siblings in every way that mattered. Daniel and Darius, once amused by the attention their love stories brought, now found themselves protective of their new family. The documentary crew returned to capture moments with the newborns, but only under the sisters' terms. No invasive questions, no manufactured drama, just real life as it unfolded, quiet, sacred, chaotic. But as the footage reached the wider world, the noise returned. Commentators called it unnatural. Others praised it as a revolution in family. Some critics accused the media company of exploiting biology for spectacle. One conservative outlet called it a step too far in playing with genes. But those who looked deeper, those who saw the full story, understood that what bound the Bennett-Reyes family together wasn't novelty. It was choice, sacrifice, grit, love. In one widely shared interview, a reporter leaned forward and asked, "Do you ever worry about what people think? About how untraditional this is?" Alina didn't flinch. She looked at her sister, then smiled. Untraditional is just code for unfamiliar. And unfamiliar doesn't mean wrong. Selena added, "We didn't plan to fall in love with identical twins. We didn't plan to lose babies. We didn't plan for our children to be siblings by science. But we did plan to love, loudly, endlessly, and together." That clip went viral. The cherry blossom trees in their backyard, hope and faith, bloomed again the next spring, brighter than before. Under them, the twins set up a picnic blanket, laid their babies down in the grass, and watched as tiny hands reached for sunlight. One day, their children would ask how this all happened, and the answer would be simple: we followed love, and love rewrote the rules. The years passed quietly, but meaningfully. The media attention faded, the cameras stopped rolling. But inside the Bennett-Reyes home, life became richer, fuller, and more real than anything that had come before. Selena and Alina's children grew up side by side, playing, fighting, laughing, and healing. They didn't need science to explain why they felt like siblings. They just knew they were. The sisters returned to work, Selena at the law firm, Alina in maternal health advocacy. Daniel and Darius started a parenting podcast and volunteered with twin research studies. Their story, once seen as sensational, slowly transformed into something deeper, a quiet proof that love and science aren't always at odds. Then one spring, a letter arrived from Dr. Haley Monroe. Her published paper had officially coined their case a genetic anomaly of parallel parenthood. At the bottom, she'd handwritten a note. "You didn't just change what we know, you changed what we believe is possible." That night, under the cherry blossoms they had planted years ago, the sisters sat with their children napping between them. The petals fell like soft memories. "I wish we'd planted one more tree," Alina whispered, "for what came after hope and faith." "What would you name it?" Selena asked. "Legacy," Alina answered. The wind stirred, the branches swayed gently, and in that quiet they realized they hadn't just rewritten their story, they had reshaped what family could mean. If love asked you to defy tradition, would you follow it, even when science, society, or fear told you not to? Let us know in the comments, and stay with us for more stories that challenge everything you thought you knew. Thank you.